Oh, sadly, Fox News crushes like a toad beneath the harrow. Reddit's most popular subreddit of late, Antiwork. And the video's gone viral, it's been called cringe, but rather than beat up on poor Dorian, I figured let's take a look and see if we can learn some media tricks from a broadcast reporter's eye and reimagine what could have gone better, what went wrong, and what was inevitable about this interview between Reddit and Fox News.
Over 1.6 million subscribers. Joining me now is the person who operates this anti-work group.
All right, stop. Here is the subject, Dorian. And she, I'm confident, was contacted by a booker to come on this show. And this booker surely saw Dorian and thought, fantastic. Because not only is she metaphorically being portrayed in a bad light, she is literally being portrayed in a bad light. She has no overhead light, she's wearing glasses, you can see the computer screen in her face, and she's backlit. There's a light behind her in the room. That setup is meant to literally portray her in a bad light. Let me show you the difference of a backlight here. If I'm backlit, that means this. This is how I look in a backlight. Looks fantastic, doesn't it? This really looks professional. Next to Jesse Waters standing there with a suit and a tie, they have Dorian backlit. Now, give Dorian some proper guidance. Present the guest in proper lighting, both metaphorically and literally. So from the start, the booker did an excellent job in making this a win for Fox News.
Doreen Ford. All right, so Doreen, why do you like the idea of being home, not working, but still getting paid by corporate America?
This is a ridiculous question that makes no sense that Jesse just asked Dorian. And there are a variety of ways to handle questions that journalists ask, and you can kind of tell they have an agenda behind. But the one I really like is don't embrace the frame. When a journalist asks a question that doesn't make sense, don't embrace it. If somebody asks me, where were you Tuesday at 3:30 p.m., and I don't want to give that answer, I say, do you shop at Brooks Brothers? Control the narrative, control the frame. Let's see what Dorian does.
By corporate America.
Yeah, so there's some misconceptions about the movement.
Yes, okay, win for Dorian. She did not embrace the frame. Good on Dorian.
We're a movement where we want to reduce the amount of work that people feel like they're forced to do. And so we want to still put in effort, we want to put in labor, but we don't want to necessarily be in a position where we feel trapped. You know, you just quoted from Office Space where that person feels very trapped in their job. I think we're calling for a society where there's less of that. But yeah, absolutely, people still want to do things. They just want to do things where they feel rewarded and they feel like they're in a good spot in their life and that their job respects them and stuff like that. You know, there's very...
Right, okay, I'm going to stop Dorian here. She's doing a decent job. She's a little bit of a run-on sentence, mini run-on sentence, run-on paragraph. I think Dorian has some great points here. Could she have been more articulate? Yeah. Should she have done a little interview prep for maybe the bullet points she wanted to put out? Yeah. Again, the booker probably knew that Dorian wasn't going to do her homework, wasn't going to be that articulate, was going to say a lot of ums and uhs, and thought, this is the person we want to talk to Jesse Waters.
Respects them and stuff like that. You know, there's varying...
So Doreen, but you're not being forced to work. This isn't slave labor. You've applied for a job. You've agreed to the terms and conditions of the employment, and you know you can walk away from that job at any time and quit. So I don't understand really what this is about, except it sounds like maybe people are just being lazy. Are you encouraging people to be lazy?
Right, okay, so Jesse actually offers a fair question. Fired, you can quit whenever you want for most of the time, unless you're part of a union or live in Montana. If you don't want to work, quit the job. If you do want to work, have a job. At the end, he gets into, well, isn't this just laziness? Is Reddit's anti-work subreddit promoting laziness?
Lazy? Are you encouraging people to be lazy?
We start to see a little bit of the Fox News agenda come out there.
So I think laziness is a virtue in a society where people constantly want you.
All right, no. Dorian, you did so well. The first question Jesse asked you, you didn't embrace the frame. Second question about laziness, you latched onto that word, and then you said, laziness is a virtue in this. What did she say?
So I think laziness is a virtue in a society where people constantly want you to be productive 24/7. and it's good.
Laziness is a virtue in society when people constantly want you to be productive. What does that mean? I think you'd be hard-pressed to convince people of that argument that laziness in any context is a virtue, except for if you may be serving in the SS, or you get conscripted into the Japanese or German army during World War II. Maybe then you can make a justification for, I was lazy, Nuremberg trials, you get off because I was lazy, I didn't do anything wrong. That might be a valuable excuse to be lazy, but I don't think that's a very compelling argument. Again, the Booker knew this. Dorian, you should have come up with better responses about how it's not laziness at all. It's rather collective action to voice our opinions of how we're being exploited at extremely low wages while remaining highly productive. The United States is one of the most productive countries in the world.
Constantly want you to be productive 24/7, and it's good to have rest. That doesn't mean you should be resting all the time or not putting effort into things that you care about. But I think one of the
What do you think is like a good work day? How many hours is a solid work
Trap question.
day in your ideal society?
Sure. I mean, I think as much as people want. I mean, I personally work. I have like a 25 hour work weeks, which I think is fairly good.
Everybody's going to have a variable opinion on how many hours. Some people are the 4-hour work week. Some people are going to say 8. Some people are going to be like, do you really want to succeed in life? 12 hours a day. I'm Gary Vee. Dorian should have pushed against the frame. Again, disputed the hours as a metric of value. Saying we should measure output of tasks or projects completed.
And what do you do, Doreen?
I'm a dog walker.
A dog walker.
Dog walker.
Yes.
I said totally reasonable, normal job. Probably not the best spokesperson for the anti-work movement. Again, the Booker, so smart, contacted Doreen. Hey Doreen, what do you do? Oh, you work part-time. Oh, you're a dog walker. Fantastic. I think you'll be great for the show. There's millions of people on that subreddit. They're not idiots at Fox News. The Booker's not an idiot. The Booker, when they realized Doreen works part-time as a dog walker, their lips were salivating like a dog to get Doreen on Fox News.
Okay.
Yes.
And how old are you, if you don't mind me?
Don't answer the question again, Doreen. Don't embrace the frame. I hope Doreen does not tell Jesse how old she is. Age doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with the movement. Doreen, please don't answer what your age is.
Sure, I'm 30.
You're 30.
You're 30. Doreen's 30. Again, does not help this narrative that's being visually concocted in our minds. And we now have this image of Doreen in the basement with the one light, working part-time as a dog walker, 30 years old.
And is there something you want to do besides being a dog walker? Do you aspire to do anything more than dog walking, or is that kind of your pinnacle?
I love working with dogs. If I had to do this for the rest of my life, I wouldn't be super complaining. Dogs are...
Good answer. Good answer, Doreen. Dogs are wonderful animals. I think that's, embrace that job. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame. And I think Doreen didn't show any shame in being a dog walker, which is the right thing. Don't let the host or the journalist make you feel shame. Viewers pick up on that. Viewers can read emotion. Doreen did that well. She wasn't ashamed of that.
Be super complaining. Dogs are wonderful animals. But I would love to teach. I would love to, work with people and stuff like that.
What would you teach, Doreen?
Philosophy.
Oh, Doreen. I keep calling her Doreen. Doreen wants to teach philosophy. Totally reasonable. I think that's a great career. She may even be fantastic about it. I mean, she obviously has an interest in economics and the philosophy of work. She moderates the subreddit and stuff like that.
What would you teach, Doreen?
Philosophy mostly. Just introduction to philosophy, critical thinking, reason, stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I would love...
Now, Jesse Waters is able to laugh because she doesn't exactly look like an authority on philosophy. Not only is she metaphorically being put in a bad light, she's literally being put in a bad light here. And that all weaves together to create an impression of Dorian that comes across as lazy, as Jesse wants us to think, as not that sophisticated, and maybe even not that intelligent.
For you, listen, I think this might not be the greatest idea, but who am I to judge? To each their own, they say. It's a free country.
Sure.
Not everything's free, but it is a free country. Thank you so much.
Sure.
We got to run. We got to pay the bills.
Okay, so that was the end of that. Jesse gets in a snark there at the end. A really interesting thing to note, if you're watching broadcast interviews, is that Bill O'Reilly or Tucker Carlson or Cuomo, although he was fired, when the subject or the interviewee is not behaving in a manner that the Booker promised to the host they would, often what will happen is Tucker Carlson or Rachel Maddow will start interrupting. They'll interrupt to try to re-control that narrative each time. They'll start cutting off the subject more and more frequently to get the conversation in a narrative they want. In fact, Jessie was pretty quiet throughout the interview. And the reason why Jessie let that happen is because Dorian, she was digging her own grave. She was embracing the frame of laziness as possibly a virtue. She was embracing the frame of I only work part-time. She was embracing the frame of I'm a dog walker and maybe I'd like to teach, but didn't go on to talk about why she wants to teach. And lastly, the visual is so compelling, Jessie doesn't have to say much. So as promised, what went wrong? Well, Doreen wasn't prepared. She didn't really do her prep work or her homework or have a list of bullet points to control the narrative and talk about the issues she really wanted to drill home. What went well? Doreen never embraced the shame of being a dog walker. Good on Doreen. And Doreen also agreed to appear on the interview. Always tough, and she was brave enough to do it. So the two things that went well for Doreen. 3, got a lot of people talking, got even more people interested in the subreddit Antiwork, which ultimately may be a good thing. What was inevitable is that this interview was going to be cringe and ultimately awful in the short term for the subreddit, because the way it was presented, that booker was so smooth, getting Doreen, a person to sit in their basement with one light on behind them, a person that works part-time as a dog walker. It was inevitable that Fox News was going to come off looking great in this interview. If you like learning about the media and learning about kind of reporters' tricks and interesting ways to deconstruct what we're seeing when we watch the news, hit like, hit subscribe. I make these videos from time to time with my journalism background discussing the news and hopefully imagining people in the world more complexly.